Hello and welcome to this short introduction to Chitubox Basic. So we will be starting from scratch and go and download Chitubox Basic. In this case it's version number 2 and I'm going to use the stable version for my Windows PC. So to find this page you just need to go to chitubox.com and then up in the menu here you have this Chitubox and then go to Chitubox Basics. So let's go and download Chitubox Basic. So now when that's downloaded, you can just go and click it. You can also go to your downloads on your PC to find the file, but I'll just click on it from here. Then we get this installation pop-up box where we just want to go and say next. We do want to go and accept this license, else we cannot install it. And that the path is this is okay. If you want to install it another place, go and do that just by clicking the folder here, but I'll just go and say next, and then it will start to install. And you also have to say yes to this one. So now when it's installed, you can go and say launch. So because I have already used Chitubox a lot, I already have a printer set up here. And if you don't get this window just as I do, then I do believe that you can go down in the left corner and go and add a new printer if you are on the front page of Chitubox. But if you come to this place, then it's all good. You can go and choose the printer that you are using. So in my case, I use Elegoo. So I'll just go and click on Elegoo, then scroll a bit down. And I have the Saturn 4 Ultra. So that's the one I'm going to click. But you can see there is a lot of 3D printers that you can choose between. So hopefully your printer is also in here. You can also go and search for your printer up in the search field. But I will go and choose Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra and say next. So now we get a lot of settings here, but we don't have to adjust so much of it. It is really set up to the specific printer that you choose. So for example, the resolution is set to whatever printer you choose, and also the size of your print plate. So let's go and click on resin here. You can also just scroll down. It is the same page. So let's click resin. In most cases, you just want to go and use like a normal resin. You can go and call it whatever you want here. If you have some special resin that you want to use. So you can actually see up here the configuration that we can go and add a new configuration also, which means if you want to go and use another type of resin, you can go and specify it down here, give it another name, because then you can have multiple profiles underneath the printer so that you can choose which resin you're going to use right now. Another nice feature that I use a lot in the resin section here is the cost of the resin. So in my case, I live in Denmark, so I'll go and take the Danish kroner, and then I want to say what is the price per kilo, and let's say 150, because then from this it will go and calculate the exactly price that your print is going to cost. And for now, let's just go and delete this profile 1 here. But that's actually it for the resin here. If we go to print, you do have to search up the layer height that your resin printer can print with. So I know in my case that my printer can print in 0.01 millimeter, but the standard would be like 0.05 when it comes to resin printing. And a lot of things will look pretty good with this resolution of the layer height. But if you take one, you cannot even see the layer height with your eyes. So for now, I will just go and set it to 0.05. So the next 3 things here is actually something that you want to try out yourself with your printer and the specific resin that you're using. When you print something, you will always have the bottom layer should be around 2 to 5 layers. So this is actually how many layers that would be printed at first at your printer. So it's actually the layers that is gluing your 3D print to the base plate itself when you start printing. If you print an object directly on the board, you might only want to have like 2 layers so that you don't see a very hard layer at the bottom of your print. You can actually see they have like a video here when you hover over it that tells what this bottom layer count is. Then with this, you also have the bottom exposure time. So every single layer that you put here, how long should they be exposed to the UV light, and I think like 30 or 35 should be good with some standard resin. But again, it really depends on what you're printing, and you have to test it out yourself to see what works. And the last thing here, the exposure time, is actually just the exposure time of every single layer that your print else. So for now, the rest of the thing is okay. We don't want to go to this G code, and the advanced is also okay. So let's just go and hit apply. So this is the base plate that we get, and it looks very much like the same base plate that we have to the exact printer. And again, if you want to add a new printer, you can go down here. It actually just say add new machine. So this was the button that I talked about, that you came in here again to actually go and create a new printer. So I know there is a lot of settings in here, but it's actually pretty simple when you get to know a lot of the buttons. Then you will find out it's not actually so advanced as it look at first cast. So let's try and go and add a 3D model to our base plate. The way we do it is going to this plus icon over here, and I'll actually just choose this one. I don't remember how many file extensions that Chitubox takes, but it takes STL, and that's what I'm using a lot. So I'll just go and open this file, and now you can see when it drop in, it is a bit small. So I don't know what this box will do, because if you say yes, okay. In some cases, it actually don't increase the size of the model, but in this case it did. So this model was actually just created by AI, and it's amazing what AI can do nowadays. I have a video also on how to create such things just by using AI only. I have not done any 3D thing myself here, but let's try to say that we actually want to go and print this out. So it's very big, this one. We can start and go and rotate it, so you have all the axes over here. And you can also see here, you can go and drag this one, but I like to just go and do it manually over here. So let's try and say 45%, or actually 90%. Then it will stay to the side here. And now you can actually see with the cost of the resin that I said, you can see down here that with all right now, it will cost 58 Danish kroner to print this one. So it will be a very expensive 3D print in this size, but it's also very big. If we go to this button, you can go and see how big it is. So it's 88 millimeter high, so 8.8 centimeter. And that's pretty huge for a resin print. So let's actually go and scale it a bit down, maybe it's like take 60 millimeter instead. And then you can see the price also dropped a lot. And the reason this model is also so expensive is that if you take this button over here, you can actually move down and see all the layers that it will create. And since this is not hollowed at any cost, then it is actually a pretty massive block that it will just go and 3D print. So it will feel nice when it's created because it's a solid piece, but it is also very expensive to print this. So the next thing is actually to add some support to this. I don't think it would be so good if we go and print this like this, because when you come to like the gun barrel up here, you can see it will just print out in the thin air. You have to think about that this is actually upside down when you print it. So you can see here, if we just go a couple of layers up, you can see right here that we have these what is called islands it will create, and then it will just mess up this print. So we cannot do it like this. So the way you want to print this, and I have actually already printed it in real life, I can just add an image here so you can see it. It's pretty cool. But what you can do is to go, it's actually pretty normal to go and rotate your models and then take like the back side of the model and push it over like this. So in this case, I will just go and do it 45 degrees. It will of course go and take some extra time and some extra layers, because it's going to do it this way, where if we have it at 0, it will only be this high, but it will also make sure that the print do not fail. So to actually add support to this, we need to click at the object here and then go to this button. And you can see we have some light, some middle, and some heavy support that we can set. And when you click heavy, you also get a big plate at the bottom here to really stick it to the base plate. So it might be overkill to do it heavy in this case. Maybe middle is okay, but I actually printed with heavy and then just go and say auto support. Then it will go and put all the supports automatically where you need them to be. So as you can see in here right now, there's a lot of support in here. Could maybe go and remove some of it to get a little bit better result, because when I should actually go and rip all this support off, it was a little bit hard because it's so many support that sticks together. But of course it also makes sure that the 3D print actually created. So it is like a balance. You have to try and error yourself. But you can go and, as default, you can go and click here to actually add new support. And then you can go and hit this minus icon here if you want to go and remove some of these. So you click on them and hit delete. So now that we actually have the 3D print model ready to print, we just want to go and send it to the printer. And that can also be a tricky part at first until you actually have the connection. So first of all, let's go to this button again. And I really think it depends on how you're going to do it, because you can go and hit slice now and actually just go and hit save from here. And again, here you can actually go and say the exposure time, just as we set it by default in our profile. But you could go and just experiment with it. If you want another exposure time, then it's time to do it right now. You can also go and make this island detection where you say start detect. I will not do it because it takes a lot of time. And right now I have already tested that this is working. But if you get a lot of fail prints on a specific object, you might want to go and start detect. But in this case, you just want to go and hit save. It should be said that there is multiple ways to do this, because you can also send by network, and that's actually how my printer is working. But if you're going to put it on a USB drive or a SD card, you can go and hit save and then just go to your USB. This is like my external hard disk here. And just go and save the file, and you can call it whatever you want, and then go and put the USB or SD card into your printer. And then of course if it's not working, then go and check if it supports the CTB extension here, because then you might not want to use Chitubox at all. Then you might want to go and use another slicer. So if you want to send by network, you want to go and download Chitu Manager, and I will go and make a new video about this, because it is a little bit tricky to set up, or it can be. It can also just be a piece of cake if it works everything. So I hope you learned something and that I gave you a good introduction to Chitubox. There is of course a lot of things you can still go and cover here, like going to hollow an object and dig a hole. You also have the standard parts over here where you can go and just take some parts if you just need them. But you should be set up to go and print with an SD card or a USB right now. So thank you for watching and go and have a nice day. Bye.